So apparently there's been some discussions. There's been some thought about maybe changing or improving the impact that quarterback salaries are going to have on teams around the NFL. So much so that Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network, he discussed the possibility of this quarterback salary cap, so to speak, being privately kicked around by NFL owners. Here he was talking to Rich Eisen.
There certainly has been discussion within the league, Rich, among certain owners about even the idea of a quarterback cap, that at some point you want quarterback numbers to not go over a certain percentage of your salary cap. To my knowledge, that really hasn't gained traction, in part because so many teams have paid their quarterbacks. And if you went to suddenly an NBA model where all of a sudden you have the max and the super max, and there's really only a couple levels that guys can get paid at, it kind of changes the dynamics in terms of how you set yourself up salary cap wise and whatnot. So absolutely, there's been a discussion about exactly what you're talking about, which is how are we paying this much money to this position and to certain guys just because they're the next one up?
Brady, Quinn, your expertise, quarterback salary cap. Let's hear it.
I mean, I'm personally not a fan of this because you would be, in essence, trying to implementing rules to limit the owners, paying out X amount to the quarterbacks, where you don't really do that to any position. So why would you do it with quarterbacks? Like if edge rushers and wide receivers, I guess wide receivers would be another one to talk about right now since so many have gotten paid this offseason. Are we going to get to a point because wide receivers are being paid so much, they need to have a cap put on them? I mean, I understand. Like, people have to understand that the salary cap is put in place in most cases for parity. Because what you don't want is you don't want a really rich owner and a really rich team to be able to spend all the cash possible to be able to essentially buy a Super Bowl. That is what you're hoping is not going to be the case. So you put in a salary cap, and then you're able to at least say, hey, this is a level playing field here. I mean, let's just take, for instance, college football. In the world of NIL right now, you have many people who are frustrated with how the landscape is changing, but we're not to a point where they feel like it's fair. Well, why is it not fair? Well, because you have certain schools who have a lot more money than others, and so they can get more of the recruits. Now, I would argue that's always been the case, right? Like when you have a school with a lot of money, they initially used to probably entice you, if they weren't paying a kid under the table, they were probably enticing them with the facilities, the stadium. They're paying for a coaching staff, the resources, everything else that you see, right? Like that was how they lured a recruit in. Look at how amazing this stadium is, this facility, this everything we have here, right? That used to be the way. Now you got NIL. And so, if you're Texas and you're one of their top recruits, as you walk in through their football facility, you see a bunch of Lamborghinis parked outside, right? That video went viral. And in essence, what you're trying to do is create more of a level playing field. It's no different in as far as why a salary cap will be implemented. And so in this case, it's twofold. It's probably for parity to a degree, but it's also because these owners are like, man, I don't want to keep paying these guys so much money, and they're taking up such a percentage of the cap. Well, I'd argue if your quarterback wants to take up 50% of the cap, so be it. You're going to field the rest of the team with the other 50%. Like, that's your choice. Like, you got to figure that out as an organization if you want to do that. And if that guy goes down, yeah, your season's in the tank. And it's most likely or probably your fault for implementing that. So that just doesn't sound like the type of ideology that would come from, like, free market. And so I don't like it because I feel like there's elements of, trying to, limit how a team ends up spending its money. But that's not business. Like, that's you get in the real world. Every decision you make, every dollar you spend is going to be, judged based on their performance. And it should be the same thing in sports.
I feel like there should be a special exception for the quarterback position. I think that would solve everything. Like, have a salary cap for the rest of the team, no salary cap for the quarterback position. I feel like that solves it. Because then now you can have enough space to pay high-end players that aren't necessarily a quarterback. Could be a receiver. Could be an edge rusher. Could be something to that effect. that you might have a playmaker in your secondary. Could be something like that. And then your cap is purely based upon the other 21 positions on the team. Which, when you think about it, I mean, what, place kicker or long snapper?
You did include some specialists there.
But if you think about it, that's really those are the only positions that have such a small amount. There's no other position that has that small of an amount of representation on your roster. Quarterback, a kicker, and a punter, right? That's probably it. Am I missing anybody? No, you have at least 6, 7 receivers, something like that, right? You have at least 9, 10 linemen, both sides. So on defense side, you have 9, 10.
What about long snapper?
I said long snapper.
Okay.
But they're still considered to be linemen in most cases. They could be a specialist, but they are still considered to be a lineman. Unless, I've never really seen a different position outside of a lineman be a long snapper in the league. I know we had a couple linebackers or fullbacks that did it in college maybe, but not in the league. So you're going to at the maximum, you're going to have 3 quarterbacks on your roster. More often than not, it's generally 2, if I'm not mistaken. So if you only have 2 guys on your roster for that position and your starter is Patrick Mahomes, why not just say, you know what, just like the coach, you don't have a salary cap for your coach. So why not just not have a salary cap for the quarterback? We all know that that's the most, everybody knows that's the most important position on the team.
Damn right.
I guess I'd argue this way then. Why have a salary cap for the other players? Why?
Because they're not as important.
Yeah.
Because they're not as important. And you don't have to live. You don't have to live on that side. So I don't need you arguing for us, Q.
Yeah.
You don't need to argue for us because we're not as important as you, and we know we're not. That's why.
Well, I was
That's why.
for the rest of the offensive players.
You people.
I was more saying you can't
jerk.
throw off his back if there's an offensive tackle that can't protect him or a wide receiver that can't get open. I was actually arguing for the other offensive players.
You out of good one. That's
Damn.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
Q is on it today. That's a bang bang right there. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
But here's the other thing is I would argue for defensive players or any other player, just again from the standpoint that if you are the best in the NFL at what you do,
you should get paid for it.
You should. And if you're not going to limit quarterbacks, then you shouldn't limit that player. Like Aaron Donald's of the world when Aaron was playing. He was the best at what he did.
True.
You can't put a cap on, the ability for what he can make with all the other 52 players on the roster, right? And then not have one for a quarterback, or I guess the other 51 in that case. So I'm just saying, I'm either all or nothing thing about it. You either open up and you let any team spend whatever they want and let the free market dictate, how this is all going to shake out and what teams want to spend and if they make good decisions, or you put a salary cap and everyone falls underneath it. I don't think you could do a hybrid.
I would love it. I would love that. Honestly, because that's what you're right. Right? If you're going to put all your money into this, it's like when you're building a car. You know what I mean? If you want to put more into the engine, but not put it into the suspension or something like that, then that's your prerogative. Somebody might like defense more than they like offense, so they might want to spend more money on their defense. And say we'll get a serviceable offense and we'll win it on the other side of the ball. I think that would be awesome to not have a salary cap, personally. Because at the end of the day, you're only going to pay what you're willing to pay, regardless. You're only worth what the team is willing to pay you. So if you say, hey, I'm going to test the free agency market and I want to see if they're going to pay me more, then so be it. So be it. If somebody's going to pay you more for your player, at least have the option to match. First right of refusal. You don't want to match it, then let the guy go to that team.
Hey, I
think that'd be awesome.
Let me ask you guys a question. If there was no salary cap, non-quarterback, who would get the most money?
Justin Jefferson.
You think so?
Right now.
Because
That's a tough question.
If Aaron Donald's gone, then it kind of opens things up. Because I would have said Aaron Donald. Like if he's the best at his position.
I say it's Miles on defense. It's Myles Garrett. It's Micah Parsons.
Watt would have to be up there. Yeah,
TJ Watt possibly. They might use his age against him. I would.
Else, yeah.
Like what?
I don't know. Injury history.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but I didn't want to say it. But I mean,
well, what do you think I was going to say?
I don't know. You might have had some. I mean, you on one. You on one today?
Jonas.
Jonas. I don't know.
You white dog.
Dang. Is that what they going with? Dang, but he's in the black and gold though. Like he gets to use black.
That's all the that's the easy go-to there. I wonder.
You don't fit the shade complexion qualification.
You're not a quarterback. That doesn't work like
You're
this.
getting taxed differently.
Dang.
I wonder like who would be that
Cooper
guy.
Kupp's trying to get Justin Jefferson money.
Dang.
They're like,
You ain't gonna get in there. We're gonna get in there. We're gonna get it.